Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, we're going to take questions from Facebook about Disney Vacation Club on this week's episode of the DVC Show. The DVC Show is brought to you by DVCstore.com. You'll save thousands of dollars in your next DVC contract when you let the experts at the DVC Store help welcome you home. Visit them online at www.dvcstore.com or call them at 1-800-550-6493. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Sean Falk.
Hi.
From the DVC Store, Ms. Jamie Saito. Jamie Saito. Oh, wow. I just married you, Ms. Jamie Carr.
Hey, everybody.
And from the DVC Store, Mr. Jerry Saito.
I'm Jerry Carr now.
Joining us via Skype, Mr. Pete Scheidley.
Hey, everybody.
And back in the production nook, as always, our associate producer, Mr. Corey Fiascanaro.
Welcome home, and Jamie and Jerry, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
really. Big shock to their respective spouses. All right, folks, a couple things just quickly in housekeeping. Please check out the DVC Instagram account, DVC Store Instagram account. Just do a search for the DVC Store on Instagram. Check out the stuff going up there. We are also looking for contributors for the DVC Store blog. We're paying $25 per published article. And if you want more information about that, you can just contact Sean. His email address is right down in the show notes, or just it's Sean, SEAN.FAULK @DisneyInfo.com. And always get that plug-in or rent your points. We just did a show on dues. But it's always a great way to make a little extra money. If you have some points you're laying around you don't want, you want to rent them, DVC Store can help you with that. Just give them a call, 1-800-550-6493, or an email to sales@dvcstore.com. All right, so we put up a post on our DVC fan Facebook page asking for questions. The last Q&A show did really, really well. So we're not going to be able to get to all the questions because there were over 200 responses to that, and we don't have that kind of time. But the number one question that was asked, that keeps getting asked, this one comes from Jeff Sproulis. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Do you think the resale restriction will be lifted at Riviera, or will they keep it and apply it to new Reflections and future resorts also? It's 6-5 in Pick'em. It's 6-5 in Pick'em at this point. I think, just personally, based on some of the things I'm hearing, the guides, I know that the guides that sell DVC Direct hate these resale restrictions because they're not able to they're having a really hard time getting existing members to add on at Riviera, and they rely on that. They rely on those sales to make their numbers, and they're having a hard time with it. So I think, we always said we had to wait for Riviera to open, see what happened. We'll know by June. If they're still doing their promotions and doing, some of the stuff that they've been doing to try and sell it, then we'll know that they're having trouble. I'm not talking to too many DVC members who've seen Riviera whose mind has changed. I think it's beautiful. I would love to own there. I will not buy it. I will not buy it with those restrictions. And, who knows what the future holds. But anybody think they're going to keep these? Pete, do you think they're going to keep these restrictions in place?
I've been always on the fence. As time has gone on, I tend to think they might keep them anyways because it may be more of a long-term plan. I mean, right now it is hurting them. I do believe it is hurting them, but as they get more resorts with this restrictions, it will become the standard, and so eventually it would eventually wash out. But I don't know if the sales are bad enough and they think the cause is the restrictions, they could. So you say 50-50, I say it's probably more likely that they keep them.
I agree with that. I think they'll keep them. I personally, as an owner, I don't want them to keep them, but if I were Disney, I would keep them. Like if I were the company, I would keep them to ensure later I would put the restrictions on each new one. Eventually we're going to get to 2042 and then you're kind of out of options at that point.
But they've got to factor, and I don't think they are. They have to factor in the message it sends to the membership that there is now a second class of DVC owner. And that immediately creates negativity, right? That's immediately for the buyer, for the person. It creates a sense of that's really not fair. How I definitely feel that with my resale points that I can't use them at Riviera. I think, I have my blue card because I bought I bought some points direct just to get the blue card, but I see no reason whatsoever why I should pay direct prices when there are phenomenal options available on the resale market. I just don't. And the fact that they've created this class system is really it's counterproductive to everything else I see them do, the way they treat the membership. It's counterproductive because in so many ways, I really think they do a great job in how they treat the membership. And then you've got this over here, very, very inconsistent. And I think they, while it may help them financially in the long term, I think it's going to hurt them in a lot of other ways in the long term as well.
I had thought about it last night as I was doing my notes. I think eventually Disney will come out with their own resale option, and they will not have those restrictions on things that they resell. I think they'll loosen them for themselves.
Do you think that's a possibility?
Or an upgrade type fee. So if you buy resale, maybe offer a whatever the upgrade is in order to get the full benefit. So that could be a potential for
I think
them
that's
too.
more likely than them competing against themselves with direct sales on resales. I think that's
That's
probably
why they've never done resales in the past, because all they're doing is
Cannibalizing.
You can't sell something for $200 when somebody can buy something similar for $100.
Well, they would never develop new properties because people wouldn't want to pay for
that's
the
true.
brand new one. They would want to save the money on the others, and they would never have the budget to build a new one because.
But there's some other timeshare programs like Marriott, right, where you can pay, you buy resale, and then you can pay for what you're explaining to move it to a different type of membership. So I mean, I think that's a very viable.
Well, Marriott
option.
does that. Actually, if you buy resale with a Marriott property, you can upgrade it into their point system and get full benefits. But it's a couple $1,000s to do the upgrade. There's a $500 educational fee is what they call it. And then there's additional closing costs. So you end up paying like $3,000 or $4,000 just to do the upgrade, but you have full benefits just like you bought direct, and you'd still save resale after those upgrades. But again, you have to pay to get the upgrade.
Yeah.
My thought is like, what happens when they're still selling Riviera and they want to start doing Reflections previews? Like they want to do a Reflections preview room at the preview center, and now then what if they're still have some Riviera availability when Reflections becomes available? Like if that was to happen, like they have to turn back, right? I mean,
Well, look at Alani.
Yeah.
They're still selling Alani. It's been like 1,000 years, and they're still selling Alani.
that doesn't have a restriction on it though, right?
No.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like Riviera still has a restriction, and then they're like, oh, here's.
Well, it has a restriction. It's a $2,000 airfare to get there, so that's the restriction.
There's that. But what if they're like, okay, so we have the resale restriction on Riviera, and then like, okay, here's Reflections. This has the same resale restriction, and they're already having trouble with Riviera for that reason. I feel like they can't. If the market is speaking like that, like they got to do something different.
Yeah. All right. So another question from Rob Krowecki. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Which resorts on the resale market have the best bang for the buck, taking into consideration dues, contract expiration date, etc.? We talked about this on the dues show.
We did.
And Jerry, you had said bang for the buck, Saratoga.
Saratoga Springs, yep.
And Jamie, you'd thrown out Bay Lake Tower.
No, secondary Animal Kingdom.
Oh, Animal Kingdom. That's
Saratoga
right.
is always number one, 100%. But Animal Kingdom's a good second.
And
Yeah.
do you agree with that, Pete?
I would agree with Saratoga Springs. I also think even though the buy-in is high, I think Bay Lake Tower
yeah.
is a very good deal. The dues are very low, and you get a long term on it, and you also have the option to get into the standard rooms. That if you buy at other locations, you're basically, those rooms are not available to you at 7 months. So I think Bay Lake Tower, in terms of a more prime real estate, is probably the best value.
Yeah, Bay Lake Tower was what I chose as well. I think you were thinking of me when you said Jamie, because we talked about it earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a Bay Lake Tower definitely. I mean, at ranges around 155 a point ish, and so I'm like, comparatively to like Copper Creek or even some of the ones that are below it, like I just think you get the walking distance to Magic Kingdom. You're right there on the monorail loop, so like you're within that range. I just think you have a lot of perks, and I think that's one that will hold its value and increase in value at a pretty good pace comparatively to some of the lower ones that are less expensive right now.
Yeah, for me, it's Saratoga, hands down. I mean, especially if the 11-month window doesn't apply to you. It never applied to me. I always plan my vacations just a few months out in advance, 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. And if that's what you do too, Saratoga can't be beat.
If you just want to get in, that's Saratoga. Yeah.
Do we think Saratoga is going to become more popular when they finish with the renovations? Because it's not
already
the most
become more popular with Disney Springs. I mean, there was a time when you could get Saratoga, in the
Christmas week, a week before.
Yeah,
check-in,
I mean,
like
availability wise and price wise, I mean, you could get it in the 80s per point. I mean, when Disney Springs was complete, we definitely saw a very large uptick in people buying Saratoga. And
what's an average Saratoga contract going for now?
I'd say 98 to 108 in that $10 window.
So it's still really reasonable price wise. Dues are low.
Yep, Treehouse Villas. I think people forget.
Yeah,
that
but my problem with the Treehouse Villas, they're not ADA compliant. They're not handicap accessible. I couldn't take my mother there. She can't walk up a flight. She really can't walk up a flight of stairs. And if you don't have a car, you're gonna take you an hour on the bus to get just to the main building. That's my only problem with them. I mean, they're beautiful, but and I understand what you're saying about Disney Springs kind of raising the popularity of Saratoga, but still, when you hear people talk about Saratoga in general, it's kind of like, meh.
But again, you're not necessarily buying Saratoga to stay at Saratoga. I mean, you can, but you're buying for value. You're buying for the cheap maintenance fees, the extended time, the lower purchase price, and then utilizing that 7-month window to go and stay somewhere else.
And that's one thing to remember. If you are only buying, or if you're buying to book after that 7-month window, every resort is identical at 7 months.
Yeah.
Every single resort.
True.
So if you don't think you're ever going to book before 7 months, you might as well buy Saratoga Springs and save yourself some money.
Yeah, I when I was making my notes about this, I thought about the Saratoga Springs stuff. I kind of went with Aulani as well for that as a resale, just because it's around the same price as Saratoga. It's very unlikely that it'll get right of first refusal pretty much at any price, just because it's still for
Still being
sale
sold.
with Disney. And if you're going under that 7-month mark, you're in the same boat. But if you want to go to Aulani, I need that 11 to 7-month window to book my flight. Like, I'm not waiting till I'm not booking a flight and then hoping at 7 months. I get this because it's expensive to fly there.
Yeah.
So Aulani is a good choice as well.
The only downside to Aulani would be a home run is the maintenance. It's just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
That's the only downside. Otherwise, Aulani is an awesome purchase.
And if we were talking direct value, I would also throw in Old Key West, because if you buy Old Key West direct, you get the 2057 end date.
Yeah. And there are those available on resale, but they're just not as often.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't come up as much.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. All right. Tanya Fitzgerald asks, what's the team's opinion on walking a reservation? Should it be banned? Now, just to make sure people are clear on what we're talking about, walking a reservation is the process of, let's say you want Christmas week at the boardwalk. That's a very, very difficult reservation to get. You have to book it 11 months out. So what a lot of people do to make sure they get what they're looking for is they'll start booking maybe a month before. So maybe they'll do the last week of November. And then every day or every couple of days, they take a day off the front and take a day off and add a day to the end and keep doing that until they get the dates that they want. DVC made it a lot easier recently by changing their online system to allow you to do those modifications yourself. I believe previously you had to call to do that.
Yep.
Now, the reason this is controversial is because what's happening is people are reserving rooms they don't intend to use in order to do this. So let's say you really want that last week of November, but it's sold out because you've got a number of people that are walking reservations trying to get to Christmas, and you can't get the reservation you want. So this is why it upsets some people. Now, my personal thought about it, Disney has not, it's a loophole that Disney has not closed, therefore it's legit. I'm not going to do it. I was talking in a recent show how I just had to grab 7 studios at Boardwalk for my mother's 90th birthday. And I decided to wait and see what I was going to get at 11 months rather than walk it. Especially around that time of year, because the fall is so hard on DVC members to find rooms if you're not booking 11 months out. I didn't want to be part of the problem. I knew with the contracts I had at 11 months, I was going to be able to get the rooms I needed. I may not get them all at the Boardwalk, but I'd be able to get what I needed, even if I was putting people at Saratoga. Fortunately, I was able to get all 7 rooms 11 months out to the day and didn't have to do that. Excuse me, I have this tickle in the back of my throat that will not go away. So, what about you guys? Walking.
I'm not a fan. I think it's a loophole that should be closed. I get it. I understand it. It works and it is a way to secure reservations, but I hate it. I think it needs to go away. I don't like it.
Did just because I'm relatively new at this, did this walking a reservation really kind of start when they allowed modifications online, or were people still doing this, just calling in?
They were doing it, I think, before that. Yeah.
As far as I know, it's been going on for years.
Yeah.
I think it's
It just
become
caught heat recently.
more and more common, but
Yeah.
It just became easier.
The secret
When?
got out, and now people realize they can do it. But I think I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's,
hate even talking about it because just the act of talking about it makes more people aware of it. But so I'm with you. I wish they'd find a way to get rid of it, but I don't know what that way would be. So
yeah, I mean, it's something I wouldn't do myself, but I also don't. I live here, so like I get if the importance of like we're coming for that Christmas and we need this. So I get the mindset of people who are doing it. It's not something I would do. I mean, maybe Disney could do something where like you can only move something like 3 times or something.
Right,
in
that's
the same
what-
set
And that would, I don't think that would be overly hard to implement.
yeah, no, it's
That
not
you can only make
unreasonable.
three modifications or 2 modifications
Yep.
to your dates.
and then they start charging you.
You know, that way, the minute, every time they do that, every time they start charging you for something that was free before, it suddenly becomes so much less popular. I'll give the great example of Le Cellier. When it was 1 table service credit on the dining plan, you had to have that reservation, or otherwise your
Right.
vacation was ruined, right? People, I'm not kidding. People would, if they didn't get it, their vacation was ruined. Then it went to 2 table service credits. Suddenly not quite so important. We've seen the exact same thing happen with Be Our Guest in the Magic Kingdom. The minute they make it more expensive, the minute they make it really cost you something, I think that would be a fair.
I think the reason they haven't done it is kind of like the reason that you don't see transferred points online. I know those are 2 different things, but I think there's such a small percentage of people doing it that it hasn't made sense for them to code their system to say, okay, we're not going to let you do this, or you transfer points. Why can't you see them online? Because it's such a minimal amount of people that are actually doing this. So yes, it's caught heat recently. I don't personally do it. I like Sean said, I don't personally do it. It's there. It's available for people to do, but I feel like it's such a small percentage of people doing it. If you do make a tweak, the few people that are doing it, it's probably going to go away.
there's enough people doing it that you see it in some of the room categories, especially in the fall. So it is enough that it does affect the ability to book. And and I'll be the first to admit of the group, I'll do it.
Yeah, no,
I've done it a lot, but I'll do it.
Well, first of all, I'm a busy guy. Okay, I'm a busy guy. I don't have time. I really don't have time for that.
My thought on it is that this isn't something that's affected me yet, but it seems like a silly little mini game in booking your vacations that you then are forcing other people to play that want to optimize by following your dropped reservations, and it just seems annoying.
Oh yeah, it sucks. I don't like it. But the other thing is, you pointed out, Pete, Disney made it much easier. You used to have to call every time you made a move. So if someone that was walking a reservation for 2 months, you'd have to make 10 phone calls in order to get your reservation. Now you literally go online, 30 seconds, you've moved it.
Yeah.
So I don't think Disney cares. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Another question from Drago Scifano. You guys haven't really gotten into detail in renting out your points. So if you know you won't be using your points in a use year where your points will expire, is renting out your points a good value for what you paid for them? What would be a good break-even point, all things considered, price you paid, maintenance fees, knowing you get more per point the further out the reservation is made? For reference, my contract was paid off quickly, so it's accrued little to no interest. So am I looking at Jamie?
She's our rental vice president.
I think there's gonna be too much math to give you a firm break even on it. I think I have to know more details. So first and foremost, are the points bankable? And if they're bankable, could you use them if you banked them? That's my first question to every person that contacts us. Because a lot of times people just don't fully understand the use of the points. So if you call me and say, I have these points, I look at them and I say, okay, they're bankable. Could you use them between, June 1, 21 and June 1, 22? Then I may just tell you to bank them and then call us the next time that you're sure you're not going to use them. If you're sure you're not going to use them and they're current points versus banked points, then the value starts to change because how long do we have to use them? Are you giving us 6 months? Are you giving us 4 months? Are you giving us 1 week? So the value, there's going to be too many differentials. If he's asking, it sounds like in a roundabout way, he's asking if you buy a contract and you rent out all of your points, what is your break even? That's what I took from that question. So if he bought the contract, he owns 200 points. Your typical break even, which we've talked about before, is 4 to 8 vacations. So if you're netting, let's say Saratoga Springs, let's just round up $7 a point for dues. So if you're netting on average $7 a point, then you have to take that $7 a point that you're netting per point and say, put that into the cost of the ownership. Did he paid cash? It sounds like. So
well, the dues are $7 a point, rounding up.
Right.
And then they're renting at $7 or $14.
So they're getting $7 to put towards their initial buy-in.
Exactly.
So then you have to divide how much you paid for that initial buy-in. Was it resale? Was it direct? And account for inflation. Next year, if dues are $7.50, you're not getting $7 a point. So again, there's a lot of unknowns. You may cut your 4 to 8 vacations, meaning 4 to 8 years or 2 to 4 years, you may cut that in half. But it takes a lot of points when you're going to start seeing.
I just ran a quick calculation. So if it's renting a points out for $14 a point, you're paying $7 in maintenance fees, and you paid $100 a point for the Saratoga Springs property. It'd take you 14 years before it's a wash. So, but again, that doesn't include maintenance fees changing. It doesn't.
And that's if all you're doing.
It doesn't even include you using it. Right. So
that's if all you're doing is renting them.
So, and I tell people, renting is a great option when you can't use your points.
It's a stopgap.
Or you need the cash. It's not a way to get rich quick unless you own thousands of points. And then, even then, you're not going to get rich quick. 14 years, to me, buy the membership with the intent to use it, and if you're not using it on off years, then we'll help you rent the points.
I had mentioned it on the Millennials show because I did some of the math for that, and it worked out well as far as if you're buying in for the first time and you're essentially buying in to invest it for those first like 3 to 4 years. Like hey, I'm going to rent out my points for those first couple years. It did cover about half the year as far as your payment went, like if you're going to finance out for 10 years, whatever. So it did cover a chunk of that as well as your maintenance dues. Obviously, you still have to pay some out of pocket, but it's like, hey, if I know I want to buy in right now and the price is low for a certain thing or the perfect contract comes up, then it made some financial sense to do it, knowing I'm not going to get to use it for a couple years, but I'm okay with that. So that was kind of something to figure in there too.
All right, another question. You're so happy I asked you that one.
I was.
From Kristen Brienne. What is something you want to see DVC do? A few years ago, they did the annual pass for the price of the gold. They have the Moonlight Magic, the Members Lounge, etc. What's something you would like to see, even if just for a little while, like during the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World?
I think if Disney really wanted to take care of their members, give them back that initial perk. When you bought, you got a pass every time you checked in to those parks. So it's like they did that up until 1999. If you bought from Disney, they would give you a pass to get into the park.
An annual pass, yeah.
No, not an annual pass. It was a park ticket.
Oh, okay.
To get into the park. So if you really want to do something to take care of your members, give them a free ticket to the park. Well, again, if you're I think it was a 2-bedroom, you got 5 tickets. A 1-bedroom was 4 tickets. So again, they gave you a pass into the park. I think that would be awesome.
I have something that I think would also encourage membership even more. We should have a member lounge in every park. It doesn't need to be
I was going to say that.
big as the Epcot one.
That was going to be mine.
But it just a small or like some space inside each park where there's a member lounge, and that like alludes to like some sort of curiosity to like Club 33.
Right.
They have a lounge in every park, and people buy the membership, and the primary reason for the membership is that lounge. There's lots of other perks to go with it, but that's what intrigues the people to look into it, is what's that secret room that I can't have access to, but I see people going into.
I put that I would like for Disney, obviously it wouldn't be free, but I would like Disney to offer more of the member cruises and maybe do like a member Adventures by Disney. Obviously you have to pay cash to do the member cruise at this point, but I mean, it's full. Like you can't, because like we want to do the Alaska one that's coming up this year, and like you could not get on that thing. So because people went, and apparently they have like really good activities that are just specifically for DVC members, and they change up a lot of things. So having those very like tweaked itineraries and stuff, I think would be just having more opportunities for people to get to do them, because it does fill out so quickly.
They announced that they released the member cruise for this year in April of last year. 2.5 hours. It's sold out. And if you weren't using points, and the amount of points were ridiculous.
Oh yeah, you don't want to use it on point. Yeah, you always points on it, but
even the cash price was like
was higher than normal.
Very high.
Yeah.
Even for Disney Cruise Line standards. And I questioned that on the boards, and people were like, oh no, they go all out. Given what I've seen with the Moonlight Magic parties, I can only imagine what DVC does on a member cruise, especially considering you've got a cruise ship, because it's a chartered Disney cruise ship. It's all DVC. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel with add-on contracts for them.
Yeah.
So, but I would love to see them do more of those things too. I agree with the member lounge. I would love to see more of the member lounges. I think the one in Epcot is fantastic. I would like to see it in more places.
I think
really
though,
something I want to see DVC do. Get rid of these damn resale
well,
restrictions.
that's all the things you guys are mentioning. You have to have a direct. So to combat all that, I'd say lift the resale restrictions, and allow members to just use the points the way that they were intended to be used originally. And then also another one that has been brought to my attention, and I think it would be a nice perk, would be something with dining. So something along the lines of, you're a member, you get so much off the percentage of the dining plan, something of that nature, because you've captivated these people. They're in the parks, they're going to spend the money, but why not give them a little nicety where you're getting so much off per day, or a different rate for being a member, so it encourages you to add the dining plan and not to cook in your room, not to bring the crock pot, not to do all the grocery delivery. Keep the people where you want them on the properties eating, just give them a little bit off, and they feel like they got something.
Yeah. I also think, and this has been brought up before, and I know it's really, really controversial, but I think doing something with fast passes for members, where maybe you get a better booking window for fast passes, or maybe you get some complimentary fast passes for members. I realize that's very controversial. Anytime there's any discussion, because now you get extra fast passes if you're staying concierge, and people flipped out about that. But I'm of the mindset, if you pay more, you should get more.
Yeah.
And I think that, given that Disney Vacation Club members are a very high affinity group for Disney, that wouldn't be completely out of line, personally speaking. All right, we're going to do one more. Let's see here. Okay, we'll do Holly HMC. Could Disney buy out Swan or Dolphin and make it a Disney Vacation Club resort? I'll tell you why that probably won't happen. Because Tishman Hotels, the owners of the Swan and Dolphin, pretty much won them in a poker game. They didn't have to pay for them. Here's why. Tishman originally had the contract to build the resorts at Walt Disney World. When Michael Eisner came in, one of the men that was very helpful in him getting that position as CEO was a real estate developer in Florida. So they basically just shredded the deal with Tishman and gave it to this guy. Well, Tishman said, oh, no. So they took him to court and they sued him. And they won the Swan and Dolphin in the lawsuit. So, could Disney buy them out? Sure. Now, how much would it cost? The cost would be prohibitive. It would make more sense for them to build 2 standalone properties somewhere else, because Swan Dolphin is profitable. It's profitable. So the cost of buying them at this point would just not make financial sense for Disney, and really wouldn't make financial sense for Tishman. They had pretty much zero investment in building these hotels.
They'd also have to renovate to a pretty major degree, right? So I mean, you're talking about a hotel
yeah.
room versus
It's very
so
conferencey there. Yeah.
that buy out and then to go in and completely renovate a hotel that's got that age and is not built to be a DVC, I think wouldn't even make sense for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right. Well, there you have it. Sorry we couldn't get to more of the questions, but that'll do it for this week's episode of the DVC Show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great week, folks.